For Estonia's Victory Day, a public holiday celebrated across the country and its neighboring Latvia because of their triumph over the Baltische Landeswehr on June 23, 1919, and Battle of Sasis, which is currently known as its war for independence. We would like to commemorate this special CNN report about its exalted and experienced geography and its thriving economy. Now with us, Aviv Karen from Tallinn, Estonia.
Green forests, great and broad lakes, profound and unprecedented amounts of digitalized technologies throughout the country. This is Estonia. In the midst of the Russian invasion on the former Soviet Union state, Ukraine, we would like to present an official CNN report on Estonia. Estonia is neighbored by Latvia on the south and Russia on the east, and its capital is Tallinn, which is only located 80 kilometers from the Finnish capital, Helsinki. Tallinn's coordinates are to 59 degrees to the north and 24 degrees to the east. Its population comes at around 420,000 people, and the area is 159 square kilometers. It is found on the European peninsula, and its longest river is the Parnu, with 145 kilometers length. Its major mountain is Sur Munajami, with 319 meters height. Here we can see Tallinn's Köppen-Geiger graph, which illustrates that the climate of Estonia is temperate and mild. Estonia also has a significant amount of rainfall during the year, which is also true for its driest month. The average temperature of the capital's Tallinn is at around 6.5 degrees Celsius throughout the year, with February being the coldest month and July being the warmest one. The precipitation is around 702 millimeters per year. Tallinn is elevated at around 9 meters height, while Estonia's average elevation is 50 meters above sea level.
Thank you, Aviv. Delightful work as always. Now we greet Dr. Michael Bernstein onto our show, who is the top CNN economy expert with a PhD in economics from Princeton University. Do you have something to add to the topic, Michael? Michael, are you with us?
Well, yes, Kelly. I'm right here. I was just taking a quick nap, but you should not be doing that after looking at this exciting population pyramid. Now, if we take a closer look here, we can exactly see that population of Estonia is at around 1.3 million. It's actually shrinking, but we'll get onto that later. And male births per female births, compared with other countries, is also similar at around 1.06, which is also more familiar with countries who have been in the Soviet Union or in Eastern Europe and Western Europe during and after the wars, the Second World War most commonly. So when looking at the population pyramid exactly, we can exactly see that that the population of Estonia, so as some might know, over 25% of the population died during the Second World War, which is one of the highest proportions in Europe. So we can exactly see that their economy was pretty much ruined after the Second World War, and that many males then emigrated right from Estonia during the USSR, which we can see that there is a higher female proportion than male proportion during that years. That may be because a high proportion of their population were killed during the Second World War of males. But then if we look at after people were young, they're 70, right between 50 and 70, we can see that there's a higher proportion of female persons, and that may be because many males just emigrated from Estonia to work in the Soviet Union because Estonia's economy was really bad during that time, which could have caused such problems economically that they had to emigrate from Estonia. So we can again see that, in the next slide, that there's a large proportion of foreign-born persons in Estonia, which include people from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, which make up most of the population, which we can exactly pinpoint that may be because they, after the Soviet Union collapsed, other Eastern countries which were on the Eastern Bloc just immigrated to Estonia as it was westernizing into the European Union. We can again see that the percentage of Estonians in the population shrank right after the 40s, which may be that the Soviet Union so many males just left, right, or died during the war, that they had to bring foreign persons. So we're talking about people from Siberia or people from Western Russia, that they had to bring in from the Soviet Union in order to work in Estonia in order to keep the economy alive, right? Because they had a really bad problem back then. So you can see that the current birth rate is at around 10.29, while the death rate is 13.69. So we can see that the growth rate is minus 0.25%. So there are more deaths than births currently. And we can see the population is currently shrinking and will do the same till it gets to around 800,000 in a couple of decades, which is not looking too hopeful for Estonians living in Estonia during this time period. Now we get on to the economy of Estonia, and we can look at the sectors that make up Estonia. So the main sector is the services sector, also known as the tertiary sector or the third sector in economy, right, which make up mostly transportation, telecommunication, and banking in Estonia. There are many big banks and like Swedbank and other transportation services that have a really developed railway and public transportation system. They have the main export are telephones, which make up over 15% of their yearly exporting. Also, refined petroleum almost makes up 11% of their exports. Also, scrap iron, cars, and rubber tires, which maybe the real reason of that is that they have many minerals and natural resources which they can use, like they can refine petroleum there, or they can create scrap iron, cars, and rubber tires to export them to other countries, because they have the ability of minerals, right, that they have in Estonia, which is included in the geography. When looking at the flow chart of production, so we're looking at petroleum, we can see that the yearly exports of the whole of Estonia is only 14.4 billion euros, 2018. So compared to other EU countries, that is quite significantly low, right? Compared to other EU countries, possibly one of the lowest in the European Union. Per capita, though, they have around 27,000 euros, so that makes up an average or okay amount in the European Union. But if you compare it to their population, it's okay, right? So when we look at the flow chart of the refined petroleum, we can see that the first step is that the oil gets refined and synthesized by the oil companies and is turned into petrol, diesel, or bi and co-products, or etc. Then the primary step is that it is delivered through pipeline or by road and rail, so that includes trucks or other trains or other methods in order to deliver it to the depots and storage. These depots and storages then deliver it to other oil companies so that they can distribute it on their own and sell it to commercial customers, or they sell it to branded marketers or integrated wholesalers, which are petrol stations that are owned privately, right? Not by the oil company itself, like we spoke a second ago. We're talking about people who are, for example, in rural areas, right? They just sell the petrol. They don't belong to anyone. So that's what that means. Or they sell it to independent wholesalers, which also includes a person, firm, or corporation who stocks inventory for the purpose of reselling it to retail dealers. And they also hold the title to the inventory. So they hold the title that they own the petrol or diesel, and then they sell it also to commercial customers in the future. Now we get on to the eras of globalization. So here we can see that in 1227, the German crusading order of the Sword Breton defeated the last Estonian stronghold, which was then kept, and the people of Estonia were then Christianized, colonized, and then serfed. Then in the year 1561, they were under Swedish control when northern Estonia submitted defeat during the Livonian Wars. Then Sweden's defeat by Russia in 1721 resulted in the Usk peace treaty, and Russian rule was then imposed in what became modern Estonia. Nonetheless, the legal system, Lutheran church, local and town governments, and education remained mostly German until the late 19th century and partially until 1918, when the World War I, the First World War, right, came to being. We can then look at the industrialism period. So it all first started in 1857 with a textile industry which was set up in Narva, where cotton spinning and weaving machinery was only driven by waterfalls of the Narva River, right, which prompted settlements to be built around that area, around the textile industry, which then brought certain workers into the industrial period, as there was very much demand for such works, right? As it was a new period of being, right? And then in 1870, a railway construction between Baldiski and St. Petersburg, which was via Tallinn and Narva, was opened in 1870, which also served the textile industry big of that city, and it went into operation in 1896, which also used trains in order to transport materials between such places, and also used the steam engine, right, in order for that train to work. Also, the Russians used it during the war, and during the Second World War, and they established many industries there in order to chemical plants in order to begin a production of rubber and artificial fertilizer, and they promised electrical industry to be being at the end of the 1930s, which would manufacture radios and telephones. However, that the independence ended abruptly in 1939 with the stationing of Soviet troops. There was an annexation by the USSR, so they didn't get their own independence until then, which was back then. There were the Independent Republic of Estonia, but that ended after Soviet rule came to shining and being. So we can see that the digitalization period began in 1997 with the Tigerhop. It's called Tiger Leap in English, which was the biggest investment from the government of Estonia, which was launched. So the project was a very big investment in internet networks and computer literacy. And within a year of that implementation, so in 1998, 97% of Estonian schools had internet access. 97%. And that is thanks to the government investing in the future, which was only 1.7% of the world population had internet access. And they said that looks like it will be the future, and they invested big into that, and that paid off, right? We'll get onto that in a couple of minutes, but where I will talk about the exact digitalization which came to being in Estonia in this time period. So now we can talk about Estonia and the European Union. So Estonia firstly joined and became a member in the 1st of May 2004, along with other EU countries in the Eastern Bloc, and have been in the Schengen Treaty since the 21st of December 2007, which means that there is, you can travel freely between the EU countries and move to Estonia for work purposes. That is pretty much the Schengen Treaty, which was then established. And here we can see the European Union with all their members, right, which includes Estonia as one of the newest members in the EU. As promised, we'll deliver. Now we'll talk about what is so special about Estonia. So Estonia is the first country in the world to allow citizens to vote online, which was implemented in 2005. Also, 99% of the public services are found online. So if you want to do your taxes, no more papers, right? You can, or establish an enterprise or business, you can do that online. Even from other countries in the European Union, you can establish a business in Estonia. Something really cool and very unprecedented and unheard of till now. They have the 4th best air quality in the world and have many national parks. Almost a quarter of the country is protected, is environmentally protected, which cannot be. Nothing can be constructed on that land, and the forest area is protected in that space.
This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.